You ever wonder if there's a perfect, most efficient way to do your job? I don't just mean a good way, I mean the one best way. Well, over a century ago, right in the middle of the Industrial Revolution, that question was everything. Today, we're going to break down the radical answer that completely changed how we work. It's a concept called scientific management, and it all kicks off with one really powerful question. And this is the question right at the heart of it all. It's about this bold quest to stop guessing how work should be done and to start proving it, with actual data, all in the name of hitting peak performance. To really get why this was so revolutionary, you kind of have to picture what factories were like back in the late 19th century. It was a world built on tradition and pure guesswork, not science. For centuries, pretty much all work was governed by the rule of thumb. Skills were just passed down from a master to an apprentice, and every worker kind of developed their own unique and, let's be honest, often inefficient habits. It was all just trial and error. And the result? It was total chaos on the factory floor. You had inconsistency, wasted effort, and absolutely no standard way of getting anything done. In this slide, this just captures the whole revolution in a nutshell. Over on the left, you've got the old way, trial and error, guesswork, total inconsistency. And on the right, you see the new promise of science, hardcore analysis, super detailed time and motion studies, and that ultimate goal, finding that single, scientifically proven one best way to do any task. So, this brings us to what it actually is. At its core, scientific management is all about applying the scientific method to the problems of work. It's about observing, measuring, and analyzing every little thing to unlock huge gains in efficiency and productivity. So, how did the pioneers of this actually plan on doing it? Well, the entire system is built on 4 core principles. Let's start with the absolute foundation of the whole theory. The first principle is just a complete rejection of that old rule of thumb. It's basically a declaration that every single work habit, no matter how long it's been around, has to be replaced by methods that are scientifically studied and proven to be better. And this is how they actually did it. You'd have managers, literally with stopwatches, analyzing a worker's every single move, this thing called a time and motion study. They'd break a job down into its tiniest little pieces, time each one, and then re-engineer the whole process to get rid of every wasted second, every unnecessary movement. The goal was to build, from the ground up, that single, most efficient way to work. Now, a perfectly designed process is pretty useless without the right people actually doing it. So the next 2 principles shift the focus away from the mechanics of the work and onto the dynamics between the people. Principle 2 calls for harmony, not discord. The theory was that the relationship between management and labor shouldn't be a fight. For any of this efficiency to be possible, any friction or conflict between the 2 groups just had to go. The whole idea was to get everyone's interests aligned. When management and workers see themselves as partners, trying to achieve something together, not enemies fighting over scraps, all their energy can be pointed toward that one common goal, maximum efficiency. And, in theory, that would benefit everybody. Principle 3 builds on this, and it takes harmony a step further into active, structured cooperation. It argues that it's not enough to just avoid conflict. Management and workers have to actively work together, but in very specific, defined ways. Okay, so the crucial point here is the super clear division of responsibility. As you can see, management takes on all the thinking work, the scientific study, the planning, designing that one best way. The worker's role, it's to focus completely on the doing, to cooperate by perfectly executing the scientifically designed method without changing a thing. It's a real separation of planning from execution. All right, so you've got a scientific process. Check. You have a cooperative structure. Check. The final piece of the puzzle is making sure you have the right people trained in exactly the right way. And this brings us to the 4th principle, the development of each person to their absolute greatest efficiency and prosperity. This wasn't just about the company getting rich. The logic was that a company could only hit its peak potential if every single employee was trained and developed to hit their peak potential. So in practice, this meant scientifically picking workers for tasks they were naturally good at, and then giving them super detailed instruction and training in the one best way. It was all about continuous improvement, making sure every employee became a true expert at their one specific optimized task. So those are the 4 big pillars of scientific management. Let's just step back for a second and see how they all fit together to form one big system. This table is a great little summary. First, you swap out the rule of thumb for science. Then, you foster harmony instead of discord. You build on top of that with structured cooperation, not individualism. And you support the whole thing with the continuous development of every single person. See how each principle just logically flows right into the next? And at the end of the day, this is the grand promise. The core idea was to create a system so radically efficient that the company would thrive and that success would be shared with the workers through higher wages. It was really pitched as a win-win for everyone. Look, this theory absolutely laid the foundation for modern management and mass production, there's no doubt about it. But it also got a ton of criticism for, well, basically treating workers like cogs in a machine, stripping away their autonomy and their craft. And that leaves us with a really critical question for today's world. We still value efficiency, of course we do, but how do we balance that scientific drive for the one best way with the very human need for creativity, for purpose, and for well-being at work? That's the puzzle we're all still trying to solve.